Hello and welcome to the Ryoho Wellness podcast. This is Margit Jefferson and I am here with Andrei Gospodarczyk, the founder of Ryoho. The vision behind Ryoho Wellness is to create a tipping point in wellness worldwide, and this podcast will contribute towards that. In each episode, we explore different health issues that present as case studies in Andrei's practice. They range from everyday common health problems through to extremely serious health issues and illnesses. We explore body parts and how they respond to nutrition and environment, and we work on inspiring people to change their life for good through an everyday wellness focus. Ryoho is a wellness modality that is unique because it focuses on healing and wellness through basic food and exercises that maneuver the body back to a state of balanced health. People literally jump out of their skin with energy and vitality when they follow Ryoho. And it's an incredible turnaround for many who have had low energy for years through to people who have had complex health issues that don't seem to budge. The podcast is an interview format and ranges from 20 to 60 minutes. And if you'd like more of an introduction on Andrei, please see the 3-minute introduction in the first podcast on the homepage. And at the end, I'll be here to give you a little bit more information. So without further ado, let's get into this episode.
Let's talk about winter. Now, there's an old Northern European saying, let's start with this one, which is every year we age another winter. It explains a lot about a lot of things, which is about how the body ages, which is through the spine, and how the body operates in terms of temperature and seasons and the different systems involved in that. We know that when we get stressed, that it creates a problem for certain parts of the body system. And when we're relaxed and happy, it's a much better way to live. When you're stressed, it demands that pulling on your reserves. There's certain parts of us involved in winter that are not so much involved in summer. The winter season can create a kind of a stress that makes us age prematurely. This is obvious in Ryoho understanding of how the body works. The cold weather makes us hunch up in the neck, makes our feet tighten up, and they're the two signs of premature aging is your feet clawing. In other words, the bottom of your feet, there's a tendon, and the shortening of that tendon is a sign that your nervous system is under stress. And the back of your neck, everyone can relate to the back of your neck tightening up as a sign of stress, your shoulders going up, your head tilting back, your chin lifting a little bit in the position of maybe running, which is a natural state to be in. We have a natural facility to get stressed, protect us from any kind of danger. The problem is sustained stress. There's a very big problem with all sorts of dangers in our world and modern living. There's a lot of stress around us. Now, we think we're safer than we used to be, but cars and traffic and mortgages, these sorts of things create a lot of problems for us in the modern world. Now, we can compensate for all of that by knowing how body operates and knowing what we should do about that. One of the first things is knowing how to stay warm and comfortable. When you're warm and comfortable in the summer, we're relaxed. We're a lot less stressed in the neck. When you're cold, your shoulders go up, your neck tightens, because in the understanding of how the body works, the spine is put under a lot more pressure in the winter cold season. And even if you're living in a very warm climate, there's still a cooler season that your body adapts to. And in the warmer summer type seasons, the circulatory system in the front of the body is more active. We're more gregarious, we're more open in summer. In winter time, we tend to be quieter and a little bit more at home. Anyone living in any city, in anywhere in the world knows that in the summertime, people are out more and much more involved with activities in the summery season. In wintertime, we're much more withdrawn at home. Now, that's the right way to be. That's a natural tendency. There's an old Chinese saying, which is that in the wintertime, to maintain your health, you have to walk around as if you have a secret It's a good way to behave. Keep your precious energy, and it is precious energy, the one that sits in your spine. The one is taxed. The spine is taxed during the winter season. Now, there's an upside to this, which is it's a time to heal the spine also. The spine, in the Ryoho understanding, is the nervous system also, the brain, and the hormones. All of these systems are lumped together in an understanding of support. We need a lot of support in winter. We need warmth, more food, comfort, safety, all of these things. In the summertime, it's much easier. We don't need as much support. We don't need as much material. We don't need as much energy. It comes more naturally to us. In the wintertime, it's better to eat foods that are warming, of course. So your salt intake rises, and this can be in the form of foods that are naturally more sodium-based, things that have some kind of higher mineral count. Now, these are foods that grow in winter more naturally, things that grow in the ground more rather than on the surface, root vegetables, things that store easily that you've gathered in the summer, things like beans and seeds and grains. And naturally those foods require more cooking, foods that require more effort to process, to make available to us, the types of foods that we would use in the wintertime. These foods are required to be boiled or baked or pressure cooked or pickled, or combinations of all of them. Some of them dry roasting them first, like buckwheat, for example, or millet. Now, these are ideal foods in the wintertime. Buckwheat, millet, great grains for the colder months. At Ryoho, we see a lot of people, especially vegetarians, coming with the sorts of problems that we see vegetarians presenting to Western medical science and saying that they have bad backs, blood sugar disorders, and fatigue. And this comes from having cleansing diets, which are a wonderful vegan-based healthy diets. But in the wintertime, we need to warm up and go for heavier food, casseroles. At Ryoho, we ask vegetarians to understand that there has to be balance. And the secret to maintaining our health is through balance. So once you've cleansed, once you've done the naturopathic journey of having lots of fruit juices and salads, then a balanced diet is a good idea. Balanced diet in wintertime means having more warming foods. Oats for breakfast, maybe. Barley casseroles at night. Using millet as part of your diet. You dry roast it and add it to the cooking of grains. There's a lot of millet recipes available. There's lots of buckwheat recipes available. Millet and buckwheat are a favourite in colder climates in Northern Europe. They're so heavy that they have a very dull taste. They require understanding to prepare. It's the human process of knowing how to present food, how to prepare it properly, how to live a civilized life, how to build a building, how to educate our children, how to stand upright and hold your pressure in the lower body. All of these things, all of this kind of knowledge allows us to maintain our human aspect. We have divorced ourselves from nature a lot through our imagination, through our spiritual journey as a species. And we need these things. We need knowledge. We need shelter. We need the tool of fire. We need to be able to communicate with each other. All these things are learnt things. If we take all our clothes off and go into the natural forests, most of us would not survive for very long without our human knowledge and our tools. Tools meaning fire, clothing, shelter, and the ability to use them in the right circumstances. So knowing how to prepare foods that support us in winter, things like buckwheat and millet, knowing that we need to have a more saline diet, maybe using a bit more sea salt in our cooking. It's very important not to put salt on your food. There's lovely remedies that we prescribe based on seeds and grains to maintain your warmth. Foods like pickles, which are pickled in salt, of course, and looking to the Northern European and more snow-based climates, they will present all sorts of great ideas for food. And whatever feels good to you and warming, it's a good way to go. Instead of turning the heat up in your environment, maybe it's better to turn up the heat inside you, getting your blood stronger and thicker and heavier. Nature provides this naturally. It's part of our process. The foods that grow in winter are more fibrous, more difficult to assimilate, and so we need to cook them more, put energy into them, then we get more energy out of them. The importance of maintaining that warmth is based on an idea that your spine is nurtured by minerals. We have more mineral foods in winter and makes us calmer. Any activity that stimulates the spine is going to directly stimulate our autonomic nervous system. There's lots of yoga poses based on the spine, and there's a very deep understanding in Ryoho about how that affects us. Stimulation of the spine can regulate the balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Parasympathetic nervous system is more active at night while we're sleeping, and it regulates our healing. When we get too cold, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in, becomes a little bit overactive maybe, and draws on our reserves and makes our spine tense. If you're warm inside and you're eating good food, you still stand naturally relaxed and tall. If you're very cold, no matter how much clothing you're wearing, because your hands are too cold, your face is too cold, then your spine tenses up and draws upon your reserves, and hence the aging premature. Lengthening the neck, lengthening the bottom of the feet by stretching out and relaxing and having nice warming foods is such a comfort in winter. By stimulating the spine, we can bring the sympathetic nervous system down a little bit, make us more relaxed, allow us to heal and feel more safe. Feeling safe in winter is very important. Feeling relaxed in winter is very important. Feeling warm in winter is very important. Using beans and grains and salt as your main sorts of foods is very important. It's up to you to figure out how much you need so you don't feel cold and tense all the time, so your back doesn't ache, so your joints don't ache. Avoiding the summer foods is a damn good idea also. Lots of fruits and juices and sweet things and lots of oil. Best use more in the warmer climate. Fruit makes you relax. Starting your day with a savoury breakfast is a very good idea in winter. Warm you up, make you feel robust, strong and well.
It really provides a lot of amazing information and has made me think of a lot of different things that apply to my life and people in my life. One of the questions that I have is, these days people travel a lot because, it's easy to travel and it's cheaper to travel, and a lot of people who live in winter climates will head off north to the sunshine, and they will go somewhere where it's incredibly hot and tropical or hot and dry. And so they come out of a winter situation and then they go and plant themselves in a summer situation for 1 or 2 or 3 more weeks. What happens in that case? Because it's a little bit schizophrenic, isn't it? You've been treating your body in a winter scenario, then you go to the summer and then you come back to the winter. So what happens there, and what advice do you give in those scenarios?
We see a lot of travellers, and there is a thing called jet lag. Depends which way you're travelling around the planet. There's that. There's another thing I'd like to present as part of this discussion, is that there's people who get old, they get tired, and they actually develop the things we were talking about earlier, which is tension in the neck. Their spine gets stiff, their joints start to ache, they develop all sorts of brittle bone type syndromes, osteoporosis we call it, where you've drawn upon your reserve so much that now you're in a state where you feel very uncomfortable in a colder climate. And they tend to move to warmer climates because of the nature of how we relate to cold, what we need to be able to survive in the colder weather, and what makes us feel more comfortable in a hotter climate. So the demands on your bones and your nervous system are not there anymore. So people, as they get older, of course, they move to northern part of Australia, which is warmer, or they move to the southern part of America, which is warmer, or they move to Spain or whatever. So, Miami, Florida, Mallorca, whatever. Yeah. So it's an obvious trend there. People who take a lot of drugs, things like marijuana, drink a lot of alcohol, they do like to be in a warmer climate. It makes them feel much more comfortable. If you're in a colder climate, demands on your spine are constant and present all the time. If you can avoid those demands by moving to a warmer climate, of course you feel more comfortable and more relaxed as far as knowing how the body works. We do it automatically. We have a natural tendency for this. If you do it as a sudden thing, you're in traveling, as a holiday thing based on your question, you're in a cold climate, you have to go to a warm climate for a short time, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, or let's say the other way around, where you go from a very hot climate and you're going to a colder climate. The sensible thing is to just eat what is available culturally and what is naturally available in that environment. You'll take a couple of days to adjust, stay warm, be sensible. One of the best things is a scarf and a hat. Heat leaves your body through the head and cold gets into your body through the back of the neck. The old ways of talking about it was that bad energy or cold energy would get in through the neck at the back, and you always feel much more safe by having a scarf around the back of your neck. If you're going into a colder climate, that's a very good thing. Now, traditionally, cultures have different rituals to acclimatize you to the changing seasons, and the kind of thinking helps enormously. If you're a little bit in tune with your body, you'll eat the sort of things that suit you. So traditionally, in a lot of countries, they have festivals leading into summer or leading into winter that will tune you into that season change. They're not little things. They're important rituals. They help you adapt. I know we have winter type of foods. I know we have summer type of recipes and foods available to us. I know that we tend to eat lighter food in summer as a natural thing, and I know that we tend to eat heavier, more warming foods in winter. But that very clear, concerted effort and conscious act of having a ritual of season change makes a very big difference based on an understanding. In Asia, for example, suddenly you'll see lots of watermelon everywhere, and people are getting ready for summer. In Europe, they tend to suddenly have lots of pickles everywhere based on certain rituals and going through different kinds of processes, like Easter, for example. Fasting is part of it. Winter celebrations are part of it, like Christmas. They all have meaning. Certain foods are associated with those rituals, and a deep understanding of how it affects us allows us to be able to tune in to that change and allow ourselves to accommodate. We go through cleansing, we go through rituals, and then we adapt into that season change. Some countries have dramatic changes. In Asia, in Japan, for example, it goes from very, very hot, unbearably hot, to feet of snow. The extremes are there. A lot of countries have that. A lot of us live in temperate climates. We don't notice those changes as much, and maybe the rituals don't matter as much. Knowing that certain foods suit us more in winter and certain foods suit us more in summer is an important thing. If you're traveling, go to those countries, have fun, but eat what's available. Don't insist on eating what you would have at home. Eat what's available. After a couple of days, your body will adapt. The body is an enormously flexible organism, and it's very easy to allow it to adapt. Just have some hot soup if you're going into a cold climate. Make sure that you find out what the local people are eating at that time of year. I know that our society is not like it used to be up until recently. that would have been a reasonable statement that I just made. But nowadays, what the local people are eating is McDonald's, Coca-Cola, packet chips. I know that's the case. I know that people are losing that simple knowledge of how to be in tune with nature and the rituals and the recipes, the festivals and the way of living that allowed us to maintain our health and our society for thousands and thousands of years is considered quaint now, and I get it. But those ideas are very important, and vitamin pills and having zinc tablets or whatever is not necessary if you're eating the foods that nature is providing for you in that environment. And doing that stops an enormous amount of waste of having to export foods from different countries which are not naturally growing in that environment. But yeah, Margit, what you do when you travel is eat what's local, allow yourself to enjoy what's local, and think about talking to people about what they would have normally had in those environments. If that's not possible, then just know that salty, hearty, nourishing, hot soups and grains and beans support us better in a colder climate, and that lighter, cooling foods like noodles and salads and lighter grains like corn are naturally part of any environment that is hotter. If you go to Mexico and Spain, you'll see corn and wheat is a big part of their diet. If you go to Northern Europe, you'll see that oats and barley and millet is a big part of their diet. And you can easily just slide into that culture. It only takes a couple of days. If you're basically healthy, your body will adapt very quickly. 4 or 5 days, suddenly you're feeling warm and comfortable. Meantime, wear a scarf, wear a hat to keep your heat in, or try and just stay relaxed in the hot climate. Don't do too much. Your body will overheat, so eat some cooling foods. Watermelon's great. Try to avoid juices. It doesn't help. I see all the time. As soon as the weather suddenly gets hot in Australia, people drink so much fruit juice. It makes them sick. Yeah, better to eat the fruit, chew on it, and your body can tell you when you've had enough. Try to eat lighter food. It's a good way to go in the hot climate.
That's great advice. And what I'm hearing from you, if I boiled it down to the absolute essence, is that it's all about transition management. So if you're moving from one climate to another, you pay extra attention over the 2 or 3 days and make sure that you keep your body warm and safe and giving it the right nutrition. And then you observe the local way of eating and being and rituals and that sort of stuff, and mimic that or follow that in order to keep yourself well.
And I think it's a very easy thing to ask people, look, what do you eat here to keep warm? Or what do you eat here to cool you down? And, the old people know it, and it's good to know that stuff. It's fascinating and it's really interesting. If that's not available, then just ask them what dishes they have, what sort of foods, what sort of festival foods do they have at this time of year. And it's a really interesting discussion. And you'll very quickly realise what suits you. I mean, most people, of course, now don't have the sorts of conditions that they used to have. Most people had problems with infection and what we call hot diseases. But now most people are having the opposite happen to them, and they're having their cold illnesses. So everyone wants to live in a warmer climate. Everyone's so happy to go to a tropical island. It's more rare to go to a colder climate for a holiday and relax. It's more common, of course, because of our condition and the way the world is becoming now, is to go to a tropical island and just lie down because that environment suits our condition. Much better, Margit, to be flexible, and it's okay to travel and be flexible and enjoy many different sorts of things rather than being locked into always having a certain temperature. Only one kind of temperature that you're ever comfortable in, and only being comfortable in one place. If you go to a colder climate, your back aches, or you have an asthma attack, or your joints ache all the time. It's not good. I mean, that only used to be very old people. And even then, it wasn't everyone, but now it's even young people. We're seeing this.
So a sign of true wellness, if I can extrapolate, is a person who is adaptable and embraces all climates and all seasons, and is just as happy to go into a snowy environment as they are to sit on a beach.
I gave the definition of being human, and being human is a sign of being flexible. What makes us human is that ability to adapt to different environments. It's made us a very successful species. Now, one of the things that is common knowledge in the esoteric circles, and Ryoho talks about it a lot, is that the one thing that makes us human is being able to examine the results of our actions. And so in your little rest times, in your times of when you're taking a break, in the evening maybe, or when you're just catching your breath, it's good to consider the results of your actions. Did that food make me feel better? Did that activity improve me? And that's the flexibility, the adaptability, our human nature in action. It allows us to adjust ourselves to be better people, to be more useful people, to be more successful individuals. So adaptability, that's the nature of being human and being able to adjust to our circumstances. In other words, the conscious awareness of our existence, and then using that as a way of adjusting ourselves and adapting ourselves to different circumstances. So yeah, of course.
Yeah. So on that note, I found it really useful advice, and I often do this where as soon as I wake up, I will do a body scan. And by that I mean, to start with, it's for some people who might find it a little bit out there, it's just really visualizing the whole body and checking in with it to see whether it feels good, feels right. And that's the kind of thing that you're talking about, isn't it? Increasing your awareness as to how your body's actually feeling and then adapting after that.
Yeah, and the next step past that is the rituals that human beings have developed over the centuries, over the millennia, and doing certain movements or, yoga postures or things like salute to the sun, and that's sort of the next step on where you're going, oh, gee, that leg's a little bit stiff. It doesn't quite have the flexibility that it did yesterday. So it's like the next step on from the body scan is checking your movement range. And so, yeah, not just emotionally and mentally and physically, but then going on to extending that range of movement and going, okay, what are my limits? Also, so yeah, of course.
Yeah. So moving on from holidays, but it's something that's very relevant to people who travel, but also to local people, is the flu epidemics that now circle the world, and they start in the northern hemisphere and then migrate and then they mutate and so on and so forth. So can you comment on the flu epidemics, and also can you then bring into it the flu vaccine and what you think of that? But yes, interested in comments on both areas.
All right, so the flu epidemics, every year they're bigger, stronger. It was the flu of flus last year, and again, it's the flu of flus this year. Everyone's talking about it in Australia, and I know these things hit all over the world. There's a simple medical dialogue based on all of this. We know that these bugs constantly adapt. There's a natural balance in the world, and that natural balance means that if you suppress something, you kill something, you push it down, it gets stronger. The more you suppress something, the stronger it gets. There's a place for bacteria, there's a place for viruses, there's a natural homogeneous balance in the world. If we push down on something, then you, of course, have a reaction. It makes it react back and you get stronger bugs. So the mutation of these bugs is a natural reaction to us trying to suppress them. There's an interesting dialogue from many different interested parties, different people who are involved in working with the immune system and working with creating vaccines. They're kind of running out of options now. I think we've reached our limits, and I know that we keep on developing better and better flu vaccines, but it's a great expense, and it's better to not have the reaction to the environmental shift. So this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. And it happens both ways, meaning that as you're coming into winter and as you're going into summer, we have these reactions. One of them could be cold or a flu, which can become dangerous and turn into various serious version of it, pneumonia. It affects people who are not well. So, there's your clue. If you're basically well, you get over these things easily, even if you're old. And maintaining your health is the answer. If you're going to use vaccines, if you're going to try to suppress the symptoms of colds and flus, what you're doing is forcing your body to stay the same and not adapt to the season change. It's exactly what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about the winter seasons, which is your body needs to adapt. Now, that process is getting rid of certain kinds of acids that have accumulated in the summer seasons and are not useful, and certain aspects in our bodies in the winter that we need to get rid of to be able to shift into the spring or summer season, which are not useful. So vegetables, for example, are higher in vitamins and enzymes that break down fat. So as we're coming into spring and summer, people get lots of colds and flus and allergy reactions because their body is discharging excesses. I'm not saying and suggesting for 1 second that we should put up with that. What I'm saying is we need to understand what's really going on here, because if we don't understand, then we're just going to create more and more trouble for ourselves, and we're just going to have more and more severe reactions. Now, a flu can easily turn into allergies over the years of suppression. Colds turn into flus, flus turn into allergies, and allergies turn into much more serious conditions. What I'm suggesting is that what is a simple illness of adjustment, meaning a cold and sneezing and a runny nose and a bit of a temperature, if you don't understand what that is and don't understand that it's your body trying to adjust to changing seasons, and if you don't know what that means, then suppressing those sorts of eliminations and not changing your diet, not living a different lifestyle, not understanding that we need to be different for the seasons, and no matter how much energy we expend for air conditioning and heating, that we still need to adjust. It hasn't changed us. It hasn't allowed us to avoid the necessities of adapting. And so we still get colds and flus. And that those colds and flus turn into more serious conditions, that they can turn into nasty skin rashes, that they can turn into excess weight. The way we get people to lose the weight that accumulates naturally in winter is by giving them more vegetables, which are higher in vitamins and enzymes that naturally eat into the fats. We eat more animal products in winter to stay warm because they're available in the autumn season, and our bodies can feel lighter and more relaxed in summer by having foods that are less fatty and less nourishing when it comes to keeping us warm, and in fact do the opposite, break down fat, release that energy for us to be more active in the spring and the summer.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping you would explain, and that leads nicely on to some natural remedies. So if people do get sick, which is a common occurrence, and chest colds, nose stuff, fever, dry skin, can you give our listeners some simple remedies that they can use to help them through that phase of illness?
I'd love to. Now, there's very simple remedies. Of course, understanding what's really going on when you get a cold and a flu, and accepting that as not something that's a bad thing, and knowing that your body is eliminating something that you are finding unnecessary and you need to get rid of. Having that deep understanding and changing your lifestyle so that you don't have to go through this again. That's the deepest understanding and the best way to go, having that understanding. But there, of course, are remedies, very good remedies. Hot salt baths are fantastic if you're going into the winter season and you're getting colds and flus. Hot compresses, especially ginger, using ginger and grating it, making an infusion, in other words, a tea. Make the water yellow by simmering grated ginger or sliced ginger. Grated it works better, fresh green ginger. Making a hot ginger water. Don't boil it too much because you'll lose the bite. And using a flannel and placing that on the rib cage at the back where the congestion is, especially with children, it's a fantastic remedy. Using foods to break down that congestion, things like garlic and onions are very useful. Horseradish, these are the tools that people use in traditional climates, and that's very good to get rid of that heavy congestion in the lungs. One of the best is licorice, but that's that works really well. Natural licorice from winter to spring loosens up the lungs, and not so good from summer to winter. It's a different kind of congestion in the lungs there. There's wonderful remedies that we use where we have an arrowroot type of plant, and it's called kuzu, and we've used this very successfully with really serious conditions. People who've got problems like pneumonia and really heavy congestion, things like chronic sinus disorders. But that's digressing. Kuzu, really good for serious flus and colds. Kuzu is an arrowroot type plant, like I said. You dissolve it in cold water, just a teaspoon. It's available in most health food stores. If you can't get it, then similar products are available in most cultures. Things like barley water. You boil it and it makes a thick type of liquid, and we use that. A little pinch of salt or some kind of fermented salty liquid. Things like shoyu or tamari are used in Asian cultures. We can use in Western cultures just a little pinch of sea salt or some kind of pickles, whether it's sauerkraut or olives, something similar like this. Our traditional cultures have got all sorts of things. Now, it's very important not to use the modern versions that have got sugar and vinegar in them, especially the white vinegar. So kuzu dissolved in cold water because it won't dissolve in hot. Heat it up until it's clear. Add your salty substance to taste, just a little bit, and you have that between meals on an empty stomach. It's really important. The beauty of things like kuzu is that it's slimy and mucousy, just like your lungs and your bowels, which is where these conditions arise. We have diarrhea or constipation and coughing and phlegm and infection. A little cold is not a big problem unless you're a man and you have man flu. It's all a matter of perspective, isn't it, Bucky? So we can use these things like kuzu and for really, really serious conditions. And we use it for people who have tried everything else, and the antibiotics and the vaccines are not working anymore. And I can't guarantee results, but every time we've done it has been wonderful success and with very little change in diet. And as a medicine, very, very effective. I know that there's lots of medicines out there that people are using to suppress the symptoms of colds and flus, but the difference with kuzu is that it actually supports the body in healing, not just suppressing the symptoms. So what it does is it gathers up the acids because it's so alkaline and neutralizes them, binds them, and then helps your body eliminate them. And it's a good feeling straight away. If there's any hope of you finding a wonderful product from Japan called umeboshi plum, adding half of one of those to a cup of the kuzu drink, and usually it's only half a cup is enough, and you have that first thing in the morning, and in between meals is really helpful too. Not drinking liquid before or after helps, so that they can work on the liquids in your body and not have to deal with the extra cups of tea. And avoiding very sweet foods is very good also, because the kuzu works as a binder and sweet foods work as a dispersant. So avoiding things like fruit and juices and sugars. And I know honey and lemon, and all of these products are very helpful in certain conditions, but they don't go with kuzu. The lemon, the honey, orange juice, they work with particular kinds of flus and colds, and they're the ones that usually we have between winter and spring. Those sorts of flus and colds are not so prevalent anymore. They might not be as effective, these remedies that we used to have, honey and lemon and all those things before. If they're effective for you, wonderful, great. If it's not effective, if you're finding that you're still sick and the only thing helping you is very strong pharmaceuticals, then try kuzu and have a look at your lifestyle and understand what's really going on.
Yeah, I think they're fantastic remedies. Really amazing. I use them a lot myself. There's some absolute gems in there. A couple of more things before we wrap this up. One is that I've heard the wonderful story about, I think it was Lisa or you when she or you were a child, and there was a lung condition, and the mother threw the child in a swimming pool of cold water. So can you talk about when is it safe to exercise? And because a lot of people, when they're sick in winter, they hibernate. Can you talk us through that a little bit, please?
It's very easy reaction to just lie down when you're feeling sick. A lot of the time, though, it's very good to move and help your body burn stuff off. So going for a brisk walk, you've got to understand that sneezing, coughing, and temperature, diarrhea is your body trying to get rid of something. It's desperately trying to throw it out, violently trying to throw it out. Sweating, overheating. This is your body trying very, very hard. Now, there's a fine balance between overtaxing yourself and supporting your body in its elimination. In Asia, in Japan, in Russia, Northern Europe, it's common knowledge that chronic conditions, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking about these sorts of things, not while you're having the flu, but in chronic conditions, walking in the snow barefoot, that jumping into cold water makes you breathe, of course. Now, jumping into a cold shower even will make you gasp and breathe heavily, and it makes the lungs work better. It makes the large intestine work better. So knowing how to instigate those sorts of programs and knowing how to deal with it is important. Taking that same logic, being active to help your body eliminate stuff, taken to the extreme when you're feeling strong enough, not during the cold, and using those understandings of how the body operates, rubbing your body with snow or jumping into cold water and rubbing your body briskly, really briskly, to promote circulation into stagnant areas, making your lungs work better, making your large intestine functions work better, and of course looking at the sort of foods and lifestyle that you're in. Now, these are extremes, and they work very, very well with chronic asthma, chronic lung conditions like pneumonia and constant reoccurring infections. Also, conditions like chronic fatigue and IBS, very, very effective because it burns out the condition and strengthens the organs at the same time. On the other hand, when you have a mild cold or a flu and you're feeling sick, just lying there is not a good idea. Getting up, going for a walk, letting the stuff come out is good. If you're a little bit more robust than that, you're a little bit stronger, then actually doing some exercise, some push-ups, some strong back bending, pounding your chest, and like I was saying earlier, doing ginger compresses or ginger infusions and making those compresses on your back, making the rib cage in your back red, and having cold showers to burn it out. Combinations of those are very, very effective. But being active helps you eliminate. Your body is eliminating and going for a walk, not to the point of exhaustion and stress, but if you start going for a walk or even a jog, a brisk walk, a little run, maybe a jog, maybe some exercise, of course you'll start coughing more. Of course, you'll have to blow your nose as you try and breathe deeper. Don't push it too hard, but going for, especially in the morning, a walk, very effective. Running at night, it's not so good. We want to relax. But it'll help you recover very, very quickly. And having foods that neutralize those acids in your body, in other words, alkaline foods, and things like grains and warming soups. Very good idea. Hopefully that's an explanation.
Yeah, that's excellent. So just to wrap up, if you were to give us 3 key messages or key points about the season of winter from a Ryoho perspective, what would those 3 things be?
Oh, the first is a positive, which is that we need to know that our spine, our nervous system, our hormonal balance and conditions that relate to those, in other words, menopause, sexual dysfunction, backaches, chronic stress disorders, things like mental problems, fluctuating conditions like anxiety and panic attacks, all are based on feeling calm, relaxed, quiet, settled, and within yourself. All of these functions are relating to the autonomic nervous system and the spine. It's one unit for us. We don't separate any of those things. It's just a matter of degree. So knowing that and understanding that that relates to the winter season, that the spine is not only taxed at that time or asked to be more effective at that time, but is available at that time of the year to be healed, because that's the time of the spine. That's the time that the body finds it can get involved in the healing of the spine. Yes, it puts pressure on the spine that time. That's when we get backaches and get stressed easily. But it's also a time when we can go through maybe one winter which is not as comfortable as normal, and ask the spine to do its job properly. Ask the muscles of the body to be more involved and not avoid. So going for a brisk walk in the morning with the fresh air, even living in a polluted city, early in the morning, the air is clean compared to the rest of the day. Try not to run in the middle of traffic and find some suburban streets or a park. Maybe a brisk walk is all you can manage, but a little jog is very good. We know in traditional medicine and also in modern medical systems, and of course Ryoho understands that you need kinetic energy for the spine to heal. Now, this is a very important point, that the little jog, and maybe it's not normal to jog and to run, but that jogging, running type activity, not running hard but bouncing, is very important for the spine to heal. Calcium and the minerals associated with calcium in healing the spine need to be infused back into the spine. That can't happen without a little bit of stimulation to the bones. The bones get active and heal through a little bit of kinetic energy, jogging, pounding of the spine, pounding of the heels, exercising in a way that vibrates the spine a little bit. Yeah, very important. Going for a brisk walk, but a jog is better. You get that fresh air in there. It's a good time to activate the spine and heal it. Now, the other thing is high mineral foods allow you to heal that. We know that the winter time is a time of stressing the spine, that it creates an anxiety, the darker time, the cooler time, the scarier time. And it's a time of anxiety, worry, stress. But also it can turn into a time of bonding and loving, harmonious, quiet, connected time. It doesn't always have to be exciting and running around. It's a time of spending time with your loved ones and being warm near the fire and having that simple withdrawal. We don't have to party all winter also. It's not a good thing to go out and see young people with their short skirts and their singlets in the freezing cold. It's not healthy. Save it for summer. It's much better. That's probably a comment that'll be rejected, but it doesn't work to try to be gregarious and social in winter. You'll only find disappointment and discomfort. Better to stay at home, read a book, get to know the people that are around you rather than trying to find new people. A good thing to withdraw at that time. And the third point is know that if you're not following those simple ideas, trying to be sensible and healthy, go with nature, go with the natural reactions your body has, then you're asking for problems. You're asking for illness in the spine. You're asking for more anxiety and worry. You're not going with the way the body is, and we can't fight it. It's not something you can just ignore. Stay calm, stay warm, avoid the horribly aging and stress-filled ideas of going out in the middle of the winter season and drinking lots of alcohol and having lots of fruit and juices and cocktails and having sweet food in winter. It's the wrong way. Don't go out a lot, stay quiet, go to bed a little bit earlier, get up a little bit later if you can, and understand that those 2 or 3 months are a good time of healing, and stay quiet and do a little bit of gentle exercise early in the morning is the best way to go. Stop the aging, understand how your body works, and be more gregarious, and you'll find that summer is the right time for that.
Well, thank you very much for that. That's I think that's a really comprehensive overview, and there's a lot of great gems in that I think people will really like. Any listeners who would like to learn more about Andre's work or Ryoho can connect and follow on Instagram and LinkedIn using the address of Ryoho Wellness. We spell Ryoho Ryoho and then add wellness on the end, obviously. Episode notes will be loaded up and available at ryohowellness.com, which is the master website. And just a few more things before you take off. Number 1, do you have a health issue or question you would like explored in one of our podcasts? Please submit it to us at the website where there is a contact page, ryohowellness.com website. Number 2, would you enjoy being notified by very short email every time we do something on Ryoho Wellness? This includes notification of our up-and-coming wellness podcasts and other things towards our tipping point. If you want to receive that, go to ryohowellness.com and drop in your email address and you'll get the very next one. And we hope you really enjoy it. Thanks everyone for listening, and thank you, Andre, for another fantastic episode. See you next time.